The acting Prime Minister Winston Peters has appeared in court in his own legal dispute with the Crown and Opposition MPs, denouncing what he called a malicious leak of his private details. Mr Peters took the stand to give evidence on the first day of his privacy case at the High Court in Auckland. Our deputy political editor Craig McCulloch was there.
A sight never before seen in the High Court. The acting Prime Minister suing members of the opposition, top civil servants, even a government department.
Is your full name Winston Raymond Peters? Are you a Member of Parliament and do you reside in Auckland?
It is, I am, and I do.
The New Zealand First Leader in the witness stand and laying out his case that his privacy was breached in the heat of the 2017 election campaign.
There was no scandal, just a malicious leak which mixes fact with a deliberate falsehood, accusing me of lying.
The case centres on how details of Winston Peters' pension overpayment became public. His key objection, that officials should never have notified their ministers, that there was no reason for them to do so. The then boss of the Ministry of Social Development, Brendan Boyle, informed his minister, Anne Tolley, under the so-called No Surprises Convention. The State Services Commissioner, Peter Hughes, did the same with Paula Bennett.
I find it repugnant, and I believe any New Zealander would equally find it repugnant if their private dealings with MSD were released to ministers who have no responsibility in the issue. In my case, ministers who are my political opponents a month out from a general election.
Mr Peters is seeking $450,000 in damages from each minister, as well as from the civil servants. The lawyer for both ministers, Bruce Gray QC, questioned whether it was appropriate for Mr Peters to seek such large sums.
Well, you're suing for a lot of money, Mr Peters, and you're asking the court to award in your favour a lot of money to be paid by mostly private individuals.
The question prompting an incredulous response from Mr Peters. He said the damages would be covered by the taxpayer and stressed the importance of his legal action.
You spend a life trying to build a character and reputation and defend it as hard as you can. For someone to destroy it in the space of 15 seconds without merit and without foundation is just wrong.
Both Mrs Bennett and Ms Tolley are expected to give their evidence later this week. The Deputy PM has the top job today and tomorrow, with Jacinda Ardern overseas. But with his attention at the High Court in Auckland, others have had to pick up the slack. Labour's Kelvin Davis chaired Cabinet this morning. The hearing is set down for 3 weeks, but may not run that full length. In Auckland for Checkpoint, Craig McCulloch.